Welcome, night owls of the screen and believers in fate, to the pulse of Turkish series stars. If you thought the Bosphorus only mirrored the moon, brace yourself, a storm is crawling over those waters, the kind that closes one chapter and threatens to rip open another. What we're pulling apart tonight isn't idle chatter, it's a living drama where mothers take center stage, where old flames smolder behind polite smiles, and where silence says more than a confession. Do one small thing before we dive in: subscribe, tap the bell, and if you want to sit with the true insiders, hit the cattle button. One click for you, a tide of support for us. Now breathe in, because the question hanging in the air is sharp enough to cut. What's really hiding behind the damp eyes that won't be seen and the stubborn quiet that won't be broken? Late last night, the entertainment world shook as if someone had stomped on a fault line. The brief, dazzling romance that swept up Cenk and a stunning, headline-friendly beauty has shattered. It burned fast, flickered high, and then blinked out, leaving fog, rumor, and the ash scent of unfinished business. Fans who only skimmed the surface might have been stunned by the announcement, but those who read the currents saw it coming in the way certain glances avoided cameras and certain posts came without captions. Beneath it all, the weight of family hovered like a chandelier above a dance floor, one thread away from crashing down. On Cenk's side, the sense of an older, wiser voice pushing back against the whirlwind was never far. His mother, never crude, never public, always precise, was said to have frowned behind closed doors at the speed and spectacle of that relationship. Not rage, concern, layered and unwavering. Whispers carried a simple, cutting thought: this path wasn't built to last. And while his most ardent supporters bristled at the new romance, he pressed ahead, an actor trying to hold the scene together even as props collapsed behind him. When the balance shifted, when private signals no longer aligned, the break felt not like a shock, but like a line that finally snapped under the weight of expectation. The second the separation surfaced, the spotlight didn't fade, it pivoted. It swung, slow and inevitable, toward a name the public has memorized like a favorite refrain: Mahassine Marabet. Her name rose in the comments before news anchors finished their sentences. Like flowers straining to find the sun, attention turned toward the woman whose chemistry with Cenk once made screens glow and whispers swell. Hope lit up one side of the city. But on the other side, a warning bell rang. Mahassine's mother is not a woman who confuses romance with safety. Protective in her bones, unwilling to let her daughter bleed for anyone's applause, she is said to have drawn a line with a steel hand. Her counsel was sober, even harsh in tone: follow your own path and leave the past closed. This intervention, delivered with the presence of someone who has seen storms swallow careers and hearts alike, raised questions that sliced through the fan fantasies. If the chapter had truly ended for Mahassine, why the alarm? Why the firm barricade, so visibly planted? Who was she protecting, her daughter from him, or her daughter from the version of herself that still remembers? Irony loves a stage, and last night it got one. The more a mother's caution echoed, the louder the fans roared. A roar became a wave became a flood, and suddenly timelines were crowded by a single plea pressed into 1,000 phrases: meet, talk, try again, marry, even. With rumors that the caution in Cenk's home had quietly softened at the idea of the familiar returning. An old flame, after all, can warm a house better than a fresh spark. People poured out their wish in messages that stung with sincerity: one last chance, please, the pain isn't other people, it's the distance. It was a fever no one had seen since those early, luminous days when their names shared the same headline and even their shadows looked as if they were leaning toward each other. Family of Turkish series stars, here's the riddle. Are we witnessing a love that refuses to die, fighting through warnings and weariness? Or are we staring at a mirage crafted by nostalgia, a trick of memory we mistake for destiny? Do you stand with the fierce caution of a mother who will not risk her child's heart, or with the quiet nod from the other side: let them try, let them find their peace? Tell us. Your voice is not background noise here, it is the third character. Official circles said little, as if every phone was on airplane mode. But the whispers that slipped through the usual cracks told a story colder than the chance of reunion. Impossible to fall in love again, some said. The kind of impossible that comes after sleepless nights and lines rehearsed in front of mirrors and diaries written to be burned. According to those murmurs, Mahassine hasn't just closed the book, she sealed it with fire and left the ashes out in rain. Hurt doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like silence that can't be moved. And yet the city didn't sleep. A rumor crawled out of the dark and refused to die. A meeting, secret and fast, timed so that one arrived as the other slipped in, the door barely touching the hinge. Representatives swatted the story away like a fly. But one voice, insistently calm, repeated the same description, brief, clandestine, tense. No olive branches, no perfumes of reconciliation. It looked more like defense than confession. Cenk, feeling crushed by the pressure of 1,000 strangers choreographing their next move, is said to have reached out not to rekindle but to request a ceasefire. Be kind with your silence online, he asked, or so the rumor goes. Her reply? The sort of poise she is known for, laced with distance. Surprised, maybe. Hurt, likely. But her posture stayed cold enough to keep the world at bay. In the daylight, their roads split with visible intention. On Mahassine's side, momentum. Meetings with producers stacked against one another like dominoes, scripts landing on tables with the thud of new beginnings. She threw herself into work, that old and faithful shelter. Friends say she is repeating a mantra, the past is the past, and the only way it stays that way is if you keep walking. Sometimes progress is just a door you keep pulling shut until the latch clicks. Meanwhile, Cenk's horizon looked hazy, full of shapes that wouldn't hold still. Those who know his rhythms said the truth without flourish, she never left his mind. But time is a strange animal. He could not find the right moment, the right feeling, the right safety to turn back. So he turned inward. Solitude can be a rehearsal, too, the rehearsal for a decision only you can make. In a twist that would make playwrights smile, the quieter acceptance is rumored to come from his side of the family. Perhaps a return to the familiar could restore calm. Perhaps the restlessness of the past months was a symptom, not a cure. Online, the divide widened until it looked like a canyon. On one rim, believers in fate, shouting that two halves should be made whole. On the other, hard-eyed realists begging them to leave sleeping pain asleep. Every call for peace jars her, wrote one voice that claimed closeness. Every suggestion that he knock on her door sets her heartbeat off rhythm. What if leaving things untouched is the only form of kindness left between them? As if the city wanted a twist, one arrived. A prominent figure in the arts, friend to both, began moving like a cautious diplomat. Not a schemer, more like someone haunted by the thought of two people carrying invisible weights they could set down with a single conversation. The mission? A meeting not for flowers and promises, but for clarity. Look at each other in daylight, say what was never truly said, and then decide whether to tear out the last pages or write an epilogue. Will it happen? Or will pride, bruised and stubborn, guard the door? The story barrels on, even without official statements. Those who write headlines for a living couldn't keep up if they tried. What will win? Cenk's melancholy drift, the version of him that seems to stare at the Bosphorus and listen for footsteps that may never come, or Mahassine's forward motion, brave and deliberate, a woman holding her own narrative by the spine. Will the mothers, standing like generals on ridgelines, one urging caution, one perhaps willing to see what old stability can offer, tip the balance? Or will the relentless chorus of the crowd push past all barricades until something gives? Here is the only certainty we can give you without blinking: this is not an ending. It's intermission. It's the breath before the orchestra lifts their bows again. Sometimes the loudest moments happen before the door opens. What do you make of the whispering mediator, this friend hovering between allegiance and mercy? Is it hope dressed in practical clothes, or a fantasy with good manners? Tell us below. Your words matter here, your curiosity is part of the plot. And while you're lighting up the comments, remember to subscribe, tap the bell, and, if you want to keep this table set for the deepest dives, press cattle to stand with us. We are Turkish series stars, and we'll be right here on the front line, watching the tide, ready to bring you every tremor, every hush, every pivot in the saga of Cenk and Mahassine Merabet. Tomorrow will say what tonight can only hint. Until the next revelation, hold your breath, but not your voice. And one last thought to carry into the quiet. In a world where every opinion comes with an echo, where 1,000 strangers can push a love story toward the cliff or back from the edge, there is a truth simple enough to fit in a whisper. Two people who once made a city believe in timing might still know how to speak the language only they understand. Or they may choose not to, because sometimes love's most tender form is a door gently closing. Whichever path they take, we will walk it with them, step by step, rumor by rumor, scene by scene, until the curtain finally falls or rises again.